Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. That's right, it's Local Chat, episode 201. Wow. Folks, joining me this week, straight from the laundry bin into the frying pan, it's Jake Terrio.
Hola.
And fluent in Cameroon, it's Ian Gibson.
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. Folks, we're your only Hispanic we're your only three white guy podcast out there on the internet.
You know what?
Last week we were four white guys, and we had a little bit of diversity with Kyle being gay, and this week, nothing.
we really fucked it up about 4 years ago. I don't know if you were aware of this. Are you guys aware of the podcast Mueller, She Wrote? Which is a terrible name, a terrible podcast.
Yes, about the Mueller investigation.
Yes, it's a left-wing podcast about the Mueller investigation. The reason why I know it is that about a year and a half ago, it was revealed that that podcast, which is, I think it's just two women talking about politics, got a $50,000 stipend from the government as part of like the COVID small business thing, where it's like a don't have to pay back, here's $50,000 for you to stay alive.
Oh no,
why didn't we get that?
We totally whiffed it on the PPP loans, because I just saw the financial disclosures or whatever, and there was one that was from like an individual on like a single employee company that had formed months prior, where it was a $15,000 loan, and it was all for payroll for the single employee, and it was forgiven. So that's just $15,000 free dollars.
We could have finally bought the website for that $50K.
Yes, we finally could have bought subpixel.com.
Because the crazy thing is, like, that podcast, they tried to justify it. They were like, well, we had to buy microphones and we had to hire somebody to do the editing, and podcasts are hard. And everybody's like, no, it's not. Like, you don't need to spend that money. And then I think about all the money that we spend out of pocket, and I'm like, we could have totally justified that.
We whiffed it, not committing fraud.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, the crazy thing is, I don't think it would have been fraud, because I believe the requirements were super low.
Yeah, it was all super loose.
Damn.
Yeah. Anyways,
crazy.
Just remind me.
And we definitely didn't apply for those loans and get them at all, guys. We definitely didn't.
No.
And don't
we
check
definitely have integrity.
Yeah. Oh, Karen.
Oh boy.
That's incredible. I wish we had done that, but we're as you stated, we're all idiots. Now,
too late.
Gentlemen, I finished a book today called The Ministry of Time. And it was awful and I hated it. There was a pretty good sex scene though that came out of left field. Very, very Sarah J. Maas of this author, but bam.
That's hot
it was
now,
pretty
right?
great.
Like graphic sex
it's I like to call it graphic. It's like vaguely graphic. It's graphic in the intensity, but the terms
you read it?
Are all vague.
Grab the book, read a page.
It's vague terms. It's vague terms, but it keeps going and going.
And it's like pretty graphic, but it's still generalized. You know what I mean? Like they're not saying like penis and stuff. It's just like he entered me roughly, and while he moved
that's still
inside
graphic.
me.
Well, that's still.
But I'm saying
graphic.
it's not like just like the penis entered the vagina and
no.
soaked up.
That's still graphic though. That's still graphic, because for me, not graphic but long would be like they held each other in embrace for hours that night, and it's like, okay, that's not graphic. It's still going on a bit long.
That's true.
Yeah.
I guess I'm. It's not science. It's not specific, I should say. Which, for my mind, I really need to know where is where, because I just like.
So it wasn't long enough.
Pin the tongue in the donkey. So, anyways, I was looking for a new book to read after this terrible book, and I wanted to try to get one more book in before the end of the year, because I'm at 18 books, and I was like, nice even 19 would be great,
just barely
for 2024. And so I remember Motherless Brooklyn being on Sam Lake's list for things for Alan Wake, like an inspiration, part of the inspiration for like New York and stuff. And I was reading the back of the cover, and I'm very confused. And I hope one of you can tell me what this means because I am so confused. I'm going to read you a sentence here for the back of the cover. Together with 3 veterans of St. Vincent's Home for the Boys, he works for small-time mobster Frank Minna's limo service cum detective agency.
How do you spell that?
C-U-M.
Is it like in the academic sense?
It's like magna cum
in like
laude,
the Latin?
Okay, that is.
Yeah, I think it is.
That is what Karen and I's conclusion came down to. But I just loved, for a brief moment, I was so excited that this guy worked for a cum detective agency, which is a fantastic show name.
Great premise.
Presumably, limousines have a fair amount of that.
That's true.
Detect.
I feel like cum detective agency, they're like tracking down, like it's like Maury.
It's like
they're like
contact
tracking
tracing.
people down. Anyway.
That's the perfect example of somebody who's like trying so hard to show off that they're quote unquote smart, but they clearly show that they're pretentious and completely out of touch with modern society.
Yeah.
You'll have to let me know.
I'm not reading this next. I'm reading a Cormac McCarthy instead.
In the novella I have coming out in January, I slipped in a Pentiment reference, and you'll have to let me know if it works or not.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the Ministry of Time book, it has vaguely to do with the Franklin expedition, so I was like in for it on that side. But like every sentence that was written, I said this to Karen, like it felt like, oh, what's the $5 word I can edit into this sentence? What's the $5 word I can put into this? Like every sentence just had like the like bougie word in it. I'm like, what is going on here? And then the stuff I sent to Jake, the author all of a sudden, and towards the end of the book, this kind of gets more clear that the author, not only the author of the book, like the first person in the book is also writing this down supposedly. So, but it like doesn't make that clear throughout the book. It just felt like a first person novel. And then like halfway through the book in this one paragraph, she describes the breasts of a woman. And then the writer of the book says, oh, sometimes I did this because sometimes not only men can write about women's breasts so like provocatively. And I'm like, wait, are you talking as the author of the book or the fake author
like a
in
footnote?
The book? No,
that was
the prose.
That was what I said.
prose.
I was like, you could have this as like a footnote, but not like
in
the body of the text.
Weird.
The fuck?
And I'm not into feet, so footnotes wouldn't have made sense, but I just like, it just felt so weird. And then after that point, like I saw the occasional reference to like, that seemed like it was talking to the reader, and I'm just like, did not make this like all this took was at the very beginning to have like a little excerpt that said from the journals of blah blah blah, and that would have fixed
different
like at
different font,
like at the beginning,
italics or whatever.
At the beginning of the Andromeda Strain, where Crichton's like, this is what really happened. Like this is the account of everything that happened, and then you're like, wait, is it?
Yeah. It wasn't a great book, but as I said, what was that? What do you want to say?
I was just gonna talk about what I said on the Discord, which was I'd never heard of this book. I looked it up, and literally the first thing at the top of Google was this list of accolades. It was like Obama's summer book list, Oprah's book of the year, and then it was like The Verge's book of the year, New Yorker book of the year, and I was like, my immediate reaction was like, so this book's not good? Because I was thinking of Million Little Pieces, the Oprah book club book that like blew up, and then 3 weeks later they were like, wait, it's this guy's autobiography, and it turns out he just made up the entire thing. And then the other one was Hillbilly Elegy, which got a shitload of accolades at the same time, became a Ron Howard movie. And it was written by J.D. Vance, and since then people have come to their senses. There were very few people at the time. I remember a couple of them saying like, hey, this book's actually not good. It's like a very elitist take on poor people, and basically saying it really is their fault for being poor, and like fetishizing, like a liberal, I don't want to say liberal, but like an elitist classist stance against lower class Americans instead of actually talking about the real problems. And who cares? It was New York Times bestseller, book of the month club, whatever. So like when I saw the book and had all these accolades, I was like, yeah, Will's probably right. This book is probably not good.
I just came up with the perfect explanation for everything, which I think this book was AI generated because, and I mean that with all offense to the author, because, it is. I mean, Jake was there, but now this is the worst book I read this year. Not the Hollow.
I mean, the success of Hillbilly Elegy gives me hope that one day I might also be able to be the vice president to someone I once called Hitler.
Yes, but first you have to write down about your upbringing in Florida.
No,
that's what has to happen first.
In Southern California.
Listen, not every
in Los Angeles County.
Not every book can be a sleeping goddess. Oh, God, what is the name of the book? Why am I forgetting it now? Goddess in Glass. Goddess in Glass. Trapped in Glass. Thank you.
God is trapped in ass.
Which it feels like I shouldn't have to qualify this.
The hollow bone.
A book I genuinely very much enjoyed. A novella, I should say. It's like Hollow Sun. I liked. It was a good story, like sci-fi story, fun to read.
But, a lot of qualifiers.
A lot of qualifiers. No, but I just want to qualify it because I genuinely really liked. I feel like it's like when you're promoting a friend's product, you don't feel genuine, but I need people to understand I really like that book.
Thank you.
But his others are trash, so don't read them.
Agree.
Anyways, that's enough chit-chatting. I'm tired, you're tired. Let's have a cigarette. Folks, it's time for games you've been playing. Oh, I have a video game thing now. Wait. Yeah, I feel like I should rap during that or something.
No.
I've got big tits, and now I'm gonna talk about video. I'm going into strong bad. Folks, we've been playing video games this week, but one game we've all been playing is Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Greatness Skull. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Have you come around on the title? Because when it was revealed, you hated on it.
No, I still think it's a bad title.
What would you say it's the worst out of the six?
Don't make me pull out all the book titles.
I would say 5 movies plus the game. Where would it rank?
I haven't seen Dial of Destiny, but I don't vibe with the title.
I mean, just title.
I don't know. Great Circle. I have a theory as to why they called it Indiana Jones and the Great Circle instead of something else, but we'll talk about that in the spoiler section. I don't know. It's probably between like Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, so it's probably 5 for me.
I would put it probably. I'm just remembering all of them. I think I would put them 4. So I would put it above Dial of Destiny and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. See, I would go on record saying the best title out of all of them is the title that has kind of been retroactively killed, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And
what are they calling it?
It's Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, everybody kind of collectively calls it that. But the original title was Raiders of the Lost Ark, right?
Yeah. People, I think it is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. They use like officially now, but I would say vernacular, most people just call it Raiders.
Yeah. But I would say that's a great title. The rest of them are okay to middling.
Last Crusade's good because
it's evocative.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
But I like it because the Last Crusade is like it's his last crusade. It has to do with the Crusades and
they're very much
and all that stuff.
They're very much in the pulp serial type, like hero and then the thing that they're doing.
Yeah, I get that, but it's like Temple of Doom works.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and the Dial of Destiny is at that point they're too long.
Yeah.
So I think it's Indiana Jones and 3 or less. And that's why I'm like the Great Circle.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is at least like evocative again, and like, ooh, what's a Crystal Skull? What's the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Where like Dial of Destiny and the Great Circle, you're like thinking of a Dial of Destiny, you're like, what the fuck's that? Or like a dial on an oven or something, and then you're thinking about a Great Circle. I mean, I drew a Great Circle the other day. It was just
it should just be Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Like Boom. That's all you need right there.
Yeah, that is true. Very true. Subpixel and the lawsuit.
White jihad.
And the drones of Jersey.
Anyways, Indiana Jones, I have finished the game. Jake, I know you have finished the game. Not to toot my own horn because it's nothing to toot over. I 100%ed the game.
I did not.
Is a nightmare. I don't know why I did that.
Oh, it was because I was going to ask you how difficult was that to do after you had naturally finished the game? Like how much was there left over that you then had to deliberately go back and do?
Oh, I had done everything before I had gotten to the final spot. And then you have to beat the game and then come back in to get the last item
to revisit a location.
To revisit a location, which that puzzle, I did the first, there's 5 panels. I did the first, I couldn't figure out any of them. And then I did the first one. And then the first 3, I had to look up a hint to tell me at least how many things I had to use for it, and then the last 2 I just googled.
It's the big room beneath the ziggurat. Is that what you're talking about?
It was. You just have to figure out these puzzles.
I didn't even touch that. I got to the first one and I saw like the mechanic, and I'm like, I don't want this. I don't care what's. I don't need it.
It was not fun. I said, this is not my kind of puzzle. I'm finishing this. But the only problem was the third big area, the jungle area, was just a nightmare to traverse. Like it's the one I had to plan out because I did not want to spend time swimming. So I really had to
driving around the boat.
Yeah, it was not fun. But Ian, how far are you in the game?
I think I'm maybe halfway through Giza, which is the second big main area.
So you're maybe like 25 or 30% of the way through.
What?
Yeah. There's a lot after that.
I may not be finishing this game.
There's a lot. So the question is, do you want to talk for a little bit before Jake and I do spoilers?
No. I'm putting it on here. No spoilers, period. I haven't finished the game. The game's out way too recently. If you guys want to do spoilers, you either got to wait a couple months and do a spoiler chat, or do a completely separate spoiler chat episode. It's, if you wouldn't let me spoil the end of Astrobot this many months later, there's no fucking way I'm going to let you spoil Indiana Jones like a week and a half after it came out.
No, but this would be a spoiler chat between Jake and I, not you included.
No, but it's also for the audience. Like,
the audience doesn't have to listen to it either. That's why we give a spoiler warning.
No. But I think we do a good thing, which is, hey, if we're going to do a big long spoiler discussion, it's its own separate episode, or it waits until game of the year, especially if it's a week and a half after the game came out, because the game's only been out, what, week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that? It's way too soon.
Week and a half?
Way too soon.
Okay.
I could wait until game of the year, but it's not on my list.
Yeah, you guys can have a separate spoiler chat if you want. I don't think it's fair to do it on local chat 2 weeks after release. That's my point.
Yeah, that's true. And it's crazy that I still think we should do it.
I'd say
I asked Will if we were going to do spoilers, and he said yes. I don't care one way or the other.
I was planning on doing it, but Ian's impassioned speech of how annoying.
I think you got to at least wait longer.
Well, yeah, it wasn't for anyone who's currently playing the game. I was just
but still, like, imagine you're listening to a podcast. They're talking about a game that you haven't finished yet. It just came out like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And they're like, okay, everybody, if you don't want to hear spoilers, shut off the podcast for 10 minutes because we're going to talk about the ending of this game. And it's like, why are you doing it a week and a half after it came out?
Yeah, I guess it's not topical. Worth it. It's okay. No. Okay, well, we won't talk about spoilers then. But Ian, I'll let you lead the discussion then, so we don't say anything that hasn't happened to you.
Yeah, so I'll kind of talk about why I think I'm going to be done playing this game. I thought I was about 50% through. I thought I could just, like, mainline it from here. I don't like the Giza area, and the reason why is the Vatican felt great because it was. I don't want to say it was a smaller area because I don't know that that's necessarily true, but you had courtyards, you had rooms, you had clear lanes.
It's a lot more clearly defined.
Yeah, whereas Giza just feels like this big open space, and then there are, here's a dig, here's a tent village, here's the pyramid. And so it's like you end up just kind of running between these pockets of things to do. Whereas the Vatican felt more like literally spatially condensed. And that was a lot better for me. The other thing is, I've gotten to a point where, so the game starts with a puzzle in the museum. In the museum, and that was fantastic because the puzzle gives you multiple ways to solve it. Like you can use context clues with the images, or you can actually recognize the flags, because Indy's like, oh, this is from Syria, and then you can recognize the Syrian flag. Like there's multiple different ways that are intelligent to do it. And then from there, some of the puzzles, I don't think there's any puzzle that is as smart or intelligent as that first one. Some of the puzzles are a little bit clever, but then I would say 50% of the puzzles are just like not even really puzzles, right? It's just like find the interact and interact with it. So I've kind of been disheartened by the puzzles. And then the other thing is Giza really leans into, you have a lot of Nazi camps, you have to do a lot of stealth. And that gets pretty boring, because I don't think the stealth system is deep enough to warrant that much stealth going on. And then it is kind of nice that you can just force your way into combat, but then the combat becomes a little bit tedious because of the weapon durability and because melee sucks. So it's like, I think all the good things in the game, I've experienced them, I've enjoyed them. They're not as enjoyable as they used to be, and now I've kind of run out of them. Like the only thing that's keeping me going is like some of the story bits and everything are interesting, but I'm literally like, okay, do I want to do another 10, 15, 20 hours of this and feel like I'm not really going to see anything? I'm not going to see better puzzles. I'm not going to see new mechanics, etc., things like that. I mean, but you guys, having played the game, like, should I keep going, or are those concerns valid where I should not expect it to get significantly better from this point?
Let me go quick. I was just gonna say, the puzzles get different. At least there are optional puzzles in the next area that really pissed me off. Like I really hated them, and they're just strictly side puzzles. They weren't fun at all.
The gears.
Yes, the gears, and they require you to have grabbed items that you have to go back for, and it pisses me off so much. And there's an order to them, which is the other thing that pisses me off so much about them. But again, they are strictly side content. They're just poorly designed side content. I will say, for the stealth, I also started to get bored of stealth, but every area I went to, I would just get the uniform that let me go into the areas that are fine. So it ended up being a lot easier. And then also I stopped picking up weapons. I just punched everyone to death. I don't know if it was the books I got.
Melee.
I didn't even know when you're fighting with your fists, you can hit the left trigger to do the left fist. I walk up to a person, I hit the right fist 3 times, and they fall over.
I didn't know you could.
Sometimes, but then some people will put the guard up, and then you're like,
and then I just wait a little bit until they put their guard down, and then I'll parry occasionally. There was an achievement for doing parrying, so I had to at least try to get good at it. But that's how you get a lot of books that are like instantly take down this thing, and then you eventually get the book that lets you do stealth takedowns with just your fist. And that's great because you just
but what I'm hearing though is that you like those because they let you bypass the combat or make the combat quicker, and it's like, that's not a good thing. Like, it should be, if it's a well done system, it should be something you enjoy doing and is rewarding, instead of like, okay, how do I get through this as quickly as awesome? Now I have a one-hit punch, so the combat is quicker and I don't have to deal with this.
It's min-maxing the combat.
Yeah, and I don't think the game's really that focused on the combat. I mean, the guns in the jungle area, I shot a guy 6 times with a gun and he was still fine. And I was like, did they just turn down the guns now? Like,
well, I just mean, it's like there are areas where it's like combat or stealth, pick your poison, and because both of them are done adequately at best, especially when you get into some of the story mandatory missions and certain areas that you have to go through, it's like, okay, am I gonna do 10 minutes of mediocre stealth or 10 minutes of mediocre combat? You just gotta kind of make a choice there.
I usually did the stealth, but again, like there comes a point where you can just walk around those areas and it doesn't matter anymore. Like I got the jungle one fairly early, and I didn't think I sneaked at all in that entire level because I didn't need to. Because you just have to watch out for the captains, and they set their loops so wide that it doesn't really matter at that point. But yeah, I do. It's not like I'm not saying it's not a fault of the stealth system, the combat system, but I enjoy the combat system, especially those underground fights were fun because you couldn't just spam punching people in the face. You actually had to learn to manage your stamina and all that stuff. So that at least was fun. But I know what you mean.
I do think the other thing that's frustrated me a little bit with this game is there's stuff in this game that they just like they never teach you. Like I'm pretty sure they never tell you about repairing your weapon, right? Like they never tell you how to do that unless I missed it.
I didn't even know different costumes had different weapons, and then I didn't know how to repair the weapon.
Yeah. I could
never figure that out either because I like collected the kit, and then I was like, wait, but how do I?
You hit X on it. It says you hit X on it, and it doesn't do anything. You have to be on the weapon when it's broken.
Yeah, well, let me describe it. Let me describe it because I went through a journey with this, which was if you try and select your weapon but it's broken, it shows a revolver, and then the revolver is cracked in half, which is broken, but it could also just be, hey, you've kind of opened the cylinder in a way, and there's an X over it above the cylinder. So for the longest time, I thought I'm out of ammo. And then I was like, wait a minute, I've been picking up ammo over and over again. I haven't shot my gun in hours. So then I was like, okay, it's got to be broken. And the way I thought about it was, okay, there were 3 things I tried. No, there was 2 things I tried. I was like, okay, what if I try and open the weapon? I know I have a repair kit. The repair kit is how you fix it. What if I try and select the weapon and it just does nothing? It just says, nope, weapon broken. I'm like, okay, what if I open my inventory and go to the repair kit? So you open the inventory, you go to the repair kit, and it doesn't let you use it. It doesn't let you do anything with it. And I'm like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And I look it up. Here's what you have to do. You have to hit the right D-pad to open your inventory. Then you have to hit left D-pad to go from the inventory side of the UI over to your weapon and highlight it. And then a little prompt pops up that says, hold X to repair your weapon. So it's like, you don't select the weapon. You don't select the repair kit. You open the inventory, then select your weapon to get it to pop. There's all these little tiny things in there that I'm just like, I wish you had told me about this better, because it would make the game slightly more enjoyable. Because again, I do think this is a pretty good game. It's like an 8 out of 10 for me because of the things it's doing really well. But that has worn thin, and now it's just me and all the things that it's not doing well. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to keep playing this.
Yeah, you could mainline some stuff just to get through it. Because I do think it was fun. I think it sort of stumbles a little bit towards the end. There's quite an abrupt reveal of something that is just like what, like
penis?
Like it's his penis. He's uncircumcised. It's crazy. No, there's just like it's just like cuts to this thing, and you're like, oh, that's crazy, and then it cuts to another thing, and you're just like, you had all this time to set this up, and then we're doing this. Like, what do you like? Did you cut a bunch of this level or something? But also, I think Indiana Jones should have been the.
Go ahead and say it, because it just reminded me of a big problem I have with this game related to that.
I was just gonna say, I think the romance in the game isn't done very well to the Indiana Jones standard, which he's a bitch who don't care. I think they set it up weird with the Marion Journal at the very beginning. I just wanted Indy to get full penetration. I didn't need to see it. I just wanted something to happen.
I just wanted
her to thank him for rescuing. No, I'm kidding. But I wanted to see. I don't even want them to fuck. I just wanted more chemistry between the two, because it felt weird at a couple points.
Well, I don't know. I felt like the chemistry was pretty good. I like Gina, and they have, like, she keeps calling him Strombo, and they had some good chemistry.
I don't think it needed to be like, again, I don't think it needed to be sexual or anything like that. It just felt like it never quite got to a point where they were like, I don't know. I just never cohesed for me. I don't know. Listen.
Jake's got thoughts on the romance.
I mean, I also think as it was getting to, well, now I don't really want to get into spoilers, but as it was getting towards the end, I was like, oh, I'm okay with this. And then something happens where then was like, I don't know if that really works the way that I want it to. But I do like Gina fundamentally as a character.
Yeah.
I think it's neat.
She's a very good character.
I think her introduction is good, where you're like, oh, what's going on here? But then it is kind of like, I guess, a little bit like Marion is in the first movie, where she's just kind of like, she's doing her own thing, and it just happens to be the exact same thing that Indiana Jones is doing, so they always end up in the same place together. But I had like 5 different thoughts as you two were talking, and now I can't remember any of them. No, yeah, Ian, you have like 3 mini sections and 1 big section left.
No, that's why I thought I was like 50%
I think it took
of the way
me,
through, but you're telling me those other sections are much longer.
Well, the third big section is a lot longer, but I think that's partly what Will was talking about because of the traversal. They give you a boat to navigate a lot of rivers, and so there's a lot. It's just kind of a lot slower. In getting from point to point.
I think you could mainline the rest of the game. I would at least want you to get to the next area, and I'm not going to hype it up or anything because you're being like, Will, I can't believe you wanted me to get there. But I think the next area is cool, and you'll know why when you go there. But other than that, like if you're not going to play anymore, then
I wanted to text you a picture, Will, the minute I got there. I was like,
it's actually I got there and I immediately said out loud to no one in the room that the ship is wrong. But I won't.
God.
I won't say why. But I was.
I just going back to Gina real quick. I do have what is probably my biggest fucking complaint with this game, which is that it's not quite the escort system. And you talked about this, Will, last week, how like when you're supposed to be stealthing and she's just like walking around all over the place. That's just funny, right? That's just funny. Yeah. What I really hate is that her and anybody else that's in the room and you're friendly to just won't shut the fuck up all the time. Yeah. Like when you first get to Egypt, you meet this lady in a tent, and it's her and it's Gina, and they give you control, and you're like, cool. I know what this game is. You're going to have notes and stuff all around the tent. And you're like, cool, I'm going to go look at this. And literally every 10 fucking seconds, like you're like, oh, let me read this note. And Gina's like, Indy, you should go look at the board. Oh, there's something interesting on the board, Indy. I wonder what's on the board, Indy. And it's that fucking pace the entire time. And I'm like, just let me look at these fucking notes that you have laid out for me to look at. But every 10 seconds, your fucking NPCs are yelling at me to do something like I'm an idiot. And that was infuriating. And it sucks because I like Gina, but anytime I'm in the game playing and she's there, it becomes very, very annoying.
I kept having her be like, look at this. And I walk over to her and she's just against the wall, Blair Witch. And I'm like, what the fuck are you want me to look at?
It's like a hint system, but they give you no chance of like finding it out on your own, and they just tell you constantly.
But the person you're with is an idiot.
I did in one section. I had this will lead into a secondary thought, but in one section there was a moment where the game obviously wanted her to get to a location before me to have some sort of line of dialogue. Yeah. But I got there before her and briefly soft locked myself, where I had to like go back to the last checkpoint and let her get there first to say the line of dialogue to trigger the next thing. Which leads me to what I got to the end of the game, and as someone who recently replayed the New Order and the New Colossus by Machine Games, though they're Wolfenstein reboot titles. This just, it didn't, on the whole, it didn't feel as tight or as like methodically put together. And I wondered if that was due to, Lucasfilm's involvement, or if there was some sort of like additional oversight that kept them from having as much of like a grasp on this thing. I don't know how long it was in development. I can't remember when the reveal was, but it just was like a good, I probably would give it like a 7 of 10, where you said 8 of 10. But it just was not to the same standard I thought that those 2 Wolfenstein games were.
Yeah, but maybe it's just a question of length, because this is by far the longest game they've made.
That's possible. And it is a lot bigger.
those Wolfenstein games were like, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 hours, and even they started to feel long in the tooth. So maybe they just maybe their problem is just pacing, and by stretching out the game and having 3 main areas, they didn't really solve the pacing problem. They just put it off a little bit by chunking it into areas.
Those Wolfenstein games are not open world. They're very linear.
I think having so many things to do in those areas also, like I in the classic phrase, I did this to me. Me going around and collecting all that shit burdened me, and I felt like the game was getting long in the tooth. But it's also my fault for doing that. But I don't know. And they even go against that by you can easily revisit any area you've been to already. So I could have gone through the whole game and then in the year when I'm bored just go into Indiana Jones and go collect some stuff, which is kind of what I should have done. But
they don't make that super obvious as you're playing through.
Sure. So are you even able to before you roll credits?
Yes, because I 100%ed. I went back and 100%ed everything before I went.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just got the prompt after I rolled credits that was like, "Hey, you can revisit places." And I was like, "Oh, cool."
But that's the thing where like they don't make that obvious, so you almost feel like, hey, I should do this because I'm not sure if I can. And it's almost like a monkey's paw where they were like, hey, we should have side content. We should have a whole bunch of different types of side content. We should make it compelling. We should make it interesting and exciting. It's like, cool, you did that, but now your game feels fucking bloated, right? Because now as a player, I want to do all of it, you know.
Yeah, it felt like it was all the things you don't see in the Indiana Jones movies, and this made you realize why sometimes you don't see some of those things. And you're just like, oh, okay, and then you get a little buffed out. Anyways, final thoughts on Indiana Jones. Anybody? Final thoughts? I finished it. My final thoughts. Yes, please. Thank you, Will. I finished it 32 hours, I believe was my final time. Overall, I joined it. I tentatively gave it a 9 out of 10. Mostly because for entertainment and value. I really enjoyed playing this game. And I had a super fun time and did everything in it. And it was great. And I love it. And I want it to marry me. And this is my announcement. We're engaged. Thank you. Anyone else? Final thoughts?
I think, like I said, I think 7 of 10 because I didn't really love the combat or the traversal in most cases. But I think the story is great, aside from just the wild third act reveal that comes out of nowhere.
That's a little bit Indiana Jones, though.
5 minutes beforehand that tipped me onto it.
Wait a
and
minute.
I went, excuse me? And then
you're like, what?
I think.
But
Oh, sorry. You finish your thoughts.
I was okay gameplay. I think good story. The soundtrack does what it needs to do. I think it hits all the right kind of beats. And I think we said it kind of last week, but Troy Baker's doing a phenomenal Indiana Jones. Like if they do more of these, they got to get him back because he's got that down to the science.
Yeah. I think for me, a lot of credit goes to them for doing something different and unique and unexpected. You know, nobody expected them to make an immersive sim indie game, but they did, and for the most part, it works. I think for me, what I'm worried about is initially playing this game, I was like, wow, this is really good. It has some problems. I can't wait to see what the sequel is like when they iron out all these problems. But the more I play of it, I'm uncertain because I'm like, okay, is the sequel do they actually know what the problems are and they're going to solve those in the sequel? Or is it just going to kind of be more of the same with similar problems? So,
well, we're going to send this video to the Machine Games PR email address.
That's right. We do that. I forgot we do that.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I may finish it. Yeah. I think you're right. I may finish it just because I am really into the story. So I may just do that. Plus we got holidays coming up. So I got plenty of time to sit on the couch and finish this.
Do it, sweet girl. It'll be fun. Other games we've been playing. I dipped my toes into some Caves of Cud this week. It hit 1.0 earlier this month, and I know they fleshed out the tutorial. So I played through that. I have made 5 characters since then, and they have all died. It's permadeath. So they've all died, and I'm not good at the game, and they all die. and live and drink is the name, is the greeting of the land. And I don't drink. I drink and I don't live. And I've died several times. There's at least some radioactive cats that I've pet that then make me glow, which is pretty cool. I killed a bunch of bats. Overall, it's a really fun game. It plays really well. I will never learn, apparently never learn how to survive, because it's a total nightmare. I'm playing on the classic mode. There is a mode that saves every time you're in town, and then there's a mode that doesn't, that saves whenever you want. But overall, it's a neat little world, very original Dwarf Fortress adventure mode, but in a sci-fi world where you need to, the sun is hot all the time, and you need to keep track of your water and trade with people, and it's a good time. Good rogue-like game. That
I'm excited. I think I'm going to try it out next week because it's getting very good reviews. I love Dwarf Fortress, so I feel like it's on the GOTY potential list. I'll probably stream it sometime next week, early next week as well.
Yeah, it's quite the game. You can really I see why people get really into it because it is pretty deep. Speaking of deep, how's the ocean, Ian?
I have been playing a lot of Indiana Jones. And the way that I play Indiana Jones is I'm like, I got maybe an hour before work in the morning, or I got a couple hours after work. And I'm like, okay, so I sit down, grab the controller, turn on the remote, turn on the TV, game starts, and I go, oh shit, I fucked up. I'm actually at my computer and I'm playing Sea Power again.
Oh no.
So I've been playing a lot more Sea Power than Indiana Jones lately. Game continues to be fantastic. Very good slow burn. Like I've been talking about how the missions are anywhere between 60 minutes to 120 minutes. Like you have time dilation, so you can speed things up and slow them down. But you just want this slow match where you're just like, okay, I'm plotting on the map. Like today I was setting up a submarine ambush, and I was like, okay, I'm technically within torpedo range, but I'm pretty sure if I fire my torpedoes now, they're gonna figure it out soon enough that they can maneuver out of the way. So I need to get closer. So I'm like using like charting tools on the map to be like, okay, they're moving 153 half hour. They're going to be at this location. I need to be a set off distance of 5 nautical miles. And it's just
Red October when Sam Neill is charting out the canyon.
Yeah. Literally like drawing boxes and radii. And it's really, really cool because it's one of those things where there's not a lot of combat. Like in a 60-minute mission, you're not firing missiles the whole time, but you're just like slowly maneuvering and then being like, okay, I'm going to fire missiles. I know one missile will get shot down by their defense, but I don't want to blow all 30 missiles just to get through their defense. And then the other thing is like, it's realistic because I've been reading about naval combat on the side, and I was having a problem. I was having a problem in the game. And by reading the book, I realized it's not a problem in the game. It's real life. Are you guys familiar with the RGM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missile that the Navy has? It's
intimately.
The game Harpoon is named after it. It's like, this is America's like ship-to-ship missile, right? The problem I was having was that there would be a group of ships, like 5 or 6 ships, and I would be like, 2 missiles for you, 2 missiles for you, 2 missiles for you. And I would launch all of them. And as soon as they got within radar range, all their targets would switch. And they would typically, the bulk of them switch their target to one ship. And then I was reading the book and I was like, oh, it's kind of a dumb smart missile. Because as it gets close to the target area,
is it this one?
There it is. There's the Harpoon.
Jake found it.
As it gets close to the target area, it just looks for the biggest. It will look for a target, right?
Yeah.
But it looks for the biggest radar target, and the missiles don't talk to each other like the Russians ones do. So every time I was firing it, it would get close, and then they would just all be like, "Oh, big ship," and they would all go towards the big ship. And I thought it was a problem with the game. I thought I was doing something wrong. No, it turns out that's just how the missile works. Yeah. But the Russian missiles don't do that. The Russian missiles actually communicate with each other. So they'll have all of them down low, and then one will pop up, see all the ships, and communicate targets and designate targets to all the other missiles in the group, and then pop back down. So it's like, holy shit, the Russians made them right, and the US made them wrong, and that's why I'm having trouble with that missile in the game. So it's just like constant moments like that, and it just feels so good when you do it right. Like that submarine ambush. The first time I played it, the submarine died. Everybody died. Zero enemies died, and it was like an hour and a half. I don't want to say wasted because it was still a great mission. And I replayed it today. Lost nobody, took out all the enemy ships, and that submarine ambush took out like 4 of the ships, half of them with torpedoes and half of them with harpoons, like submarine launched harpoons, which are awesome. They pop out of the water. So yeah, it's still a fantastic game. I will say I think I'm going to slow down playing it because I am reaching the point where I've noticed the AI is dumb. It definitely has some bugs. I had this moment yesterday where I had 2 jets and I was chasing one jet, and I was like 50 feet off the water, and I didn't want to pop up because then the enemy radar would see me and they would fire a missile at me. But because I'm 50 feet off the water, I can't fire a missile. So long story short, I'm like, I have to close in and shoot this jet with guns, right? But it ended up being my jets kept trying to like circle around them to get a gunshot, and they kept trying to circle around me. And so it was like a pseudo gunfight, but I'm pretty sure it was just the AI bugging out where we just kept like doing an interweave. And so we did that for about 5 minutes until I manually took over one of the jets, and I was like, okay, how about you just go this direction for 30 seconds and then turn around? And so as soon as I did that, the enemy jet was like, oh fuck, and it went full afterburner. It went full vertical, and over the next 10 minutes it went all the way up to 100,000 feet at the edge of the map, and then it just spent the rest of the time glitching out up there.
Damn.
And
you wanted out.
There's a MiG-27 at 100,000 feet somewhere over Singapore right now. just glitching out, having a good time.
That's the drones everyone's seeing.
Yeah, and every now and then he would disappear, and I'd be like, "Oh, it finally despawned him." But then one of my radars would be like, "Contact, 100,000 feet." Like the radar would pick it back up.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, anyways, it still continues to be a great game, but I think I don't want to say burning out. I think I'm hitting the limitations of the current early access mode, and the community is already contributing to it. So I'm excited for that to continue to grow and continue to play it. If you're interested at all in that type of game, Sea Power, fantastic.
Yeah, I should buck up and get that someday. Jake, first question, 7 letters. How many letters are in the title of your book?
The one that I'm holding right now?
Yeah, the one you're holding. I'm curious. What book is that?
Oh, a fair amount. Oh, this is shout out to Robert Jackson's Submarines of the World. Great little
hashtag Robert Jackson. No relation.
Yeah, Next. It's just little like submarine illustrations and little factoids. But
do they have the Sargo class submarine in there? Because this is a perfect.
Sargo, fuck yourself.
So I was talking about how I'm building the Nita Maru, which is a Japanese merchant ship during World War II, and it was sunk by the Sargo class submarine called the Sailfish. And I found the plans online, and the plans were all graphite scans. So I had to invert them and then clean up the images. So I did that, and then Karen so kindly printed them at her work, and now
wow,
I've got these nice blueprints.
No, I don't think so. It's I wouldn't have laid out the book the way that it does. In some cases, it gives you the class of submarine, and then in some cases, it gives you a specific one. So it goes from the Santa Cruz to the Sheer, which is a Italian Adua class. So this should be an A if I were planning this book out, whereas this would be S.
Gotcha.
But then no, it goes it goes to Sentinel after that.
Anyways, I thought that was neat.
Just to give interesting, that submarine mission I was talking about earlier. The submarine was a Los Angeles class USS Jacksonville, or I should say SSN Jacksonville.
Los Angeles class is in here.
I was like, yeah,
for Jacksonville, California.
The Los Angeles class.
Yep. That's what she looked like. Game's
LA,
great.
baby.
Fantastic game.
Yeah, that's that Nitamaru. The one I have, I think, is the original first Tamiya print of it, and it is in rough shape. A lot of styrene and filling in with Tamiya putty and making sure everything looks nice. I've decided to. It's a cheap, shitty model that I got for like $8, and I'm like, I'm gonna put all of the modeling techniques on this and try to make it look good. So.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. Jake, I'm in my darkest dungeon as well, but it seems you're in the darkest dungeon too.
Yeah. I can't remember when Darkest Dungeon 2 went into early access, but it hit 1.0 sometime last year, and it's just taken me a while to get around to actually playing it. And I have played it now, and it's neat, but I'm not enjoying it as much as the first one. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. Have either of you played Darkest Dungeon 1?
I did. Yeah. It seems like a great game. I just didn't click with it.
I played it 2 weeks ago. I bought it for the Steam Deck, and I played it for like an hour. And I am playing. I can't say I don't like it. I am playing wrong, and I don't know how to play that game. So I don't like it.
It did take me a minute to get into it with the original, but what I liked about it was, I think in kind of like in the similar vein of stuff like XCOM, you can build a party and like customize the individual characters either by name or by giving them, a specific upgrade, where then you're like, oh, that's this character in my roster. And Darkest Dungeon has permadeath, and so like when they die, you'd be like, oh no, now I lost like this guy that, maybe I made him like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I, extended my party too far and now they're dead. And so it had like this risk reward element where later in the game you might have a group in, your little collection of warriors in town that were all like maxed out or close to maxed out, where you were like, oh, I'm going to save those to go after, the big boss over in this area, but maybe I'll send out some lower level characters to go, gather resources and trinkets and stuff that then I can use later. And I thought that was really cool, because then you could, you're like, okay, I have this group and I've got all this it became almost not like a management sim, but it had management kind of aspects where you were thinking several steps ahead of like, okay, I'm going to do this to beat the big boss. Darkest Dungeon 2 is doing almost, I feel like maybe they're borrowing a little DNA from Hades, where you start each run towards this mountain and you get to like a lamppost and you pick 4 characters from the available roster of characters, but they're not specific. They don't have permanent upgrades. They are just the roster of characters with their skills and whatever, and you pick 4 of them, and then you go do the thing and you collect trinkets and you get whatever and you fight and you do everything and eventually you die. And then it just starts over. And you can there are a currency by which you can permanently upgrade like the stagecoach that carries you from place to place. But you always kind of have to re-level at least a little bit as you go. And so I'm not quite vibing with it yet. I beat the first boss. I don't know. I think maybe there's 5. Because at the start, every game starts with you signing a contract, and it's got 5 like check boxes, and the first one was denial and nothing else was available. And then after I beat the first boss, then there was a second checkbox available that I could check to go do, and like new level environments appeared and new items were available. So I think there's 5 main bosses total, at least on whatever like the main story arc is. But they're, like I said, they're also doing like a Hades type thing where every time your party wipes and you go back to like the cabin where you signed the contract, they give you a little bit more story of like the overarching story of like how the world became this way, which like is Hades. Interesting. But I don't know how long I'll stick with it, because it's not scratching that itch like the first game did. But the art direction is still very great. The transition from 2D to 3D, I think, works pretty well. The characters all like the character design and everything is all still fantastic. But yeah, that's Darkest Dungeon 2. So far.
Stay tuned, ladies. Okay, good. How's the other game, Alan Awake 2 DLC?
I did finally dive back into the Alan Wake, the World of Remedy's Alan Wake 2, to play the Night Springs expansion and the Lake House expansion, based on the film starring Sandy Bullock and Keanu Reeves. And that, I mean, Alan Wake 2, I think, Will, it was your game of the year, and it was my number 2 last year. It's so good, and it looks so good, and like, it feels like with these expansions, or with the Night Springs expansion specifically, it's like Alan Wake is so serious, and it's got humor in it with like the little coffee commercials that play on the TV sometimes, but it's like a very serious game. And then it's like Sam Lake and the rest of like the people he has on his writing team were like, what if we did a silly one for sillies? And that's what Night Springs is, because it's 3 episodes and they all take about a half an hour. It's like little like episodic, and they frame them that way, as with the guy who plays Orland Dorr is always at the top doing like the Rod Sterling monologue, and then cut to title card, and then the episode happens. The first one being that waitress who's obsessed with Alan Wake has like her fantasy where she gets to be the one to rescue him, and they give you like a full auto shotgun and 1,000,000 bullets to just like go nuts on the way up to the cabin to rescue him. And it's fun and quirky. And then the second one is a little more serious, where it's almost like a Control prequel, where it's Jessie before she becomes the director of the Bureau, searching for her brother in the woods outside, Bright Falls. And then the third one was the one that I enjoyed the most, which is the guy who plays the sheriff, Sean something,
from Heroes,
who's in Heroes and is the lead character in Quantum Break.
Yes,
Sean Penn.
And
it's
X-Men.
They do the thing that I've hated so much in recent fiction. They turn it into a multiverse story where it starts out and he is on set as himself, the actor, and Sam Lake as himself, the director, shooting like a cutscene for a game that isn't Quantum Break. It's called Time Breakers, I think. And then you find out that there's a character that's going through the multiverse, killing off all the multiverse variants of this actor.
And so Gently the One.
He does like it's almost like a Galaxy Quest type thing, where he's like, wait, I have to be the guy. I have to be the hero that is in the game to go save myself in the multiverse. And that one's fun because they do like the multiverse jumping thing, where they actually play with like not just the third person stuff. There's a text adventure portion and there's a side scroller portion.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
You're like, oh, this is great. It had one puzzle that was really stupid that I smacked my head against for like 15 minutes. But aside from that, hilarious, great fun. I was giggling nearly the whole time. And then the Lake House is Sam Lake being mad at generative AI in a very artsy sci-fi way, where you're like, oh yeah, I get it. I understand it. This is neat. And pretty good. That one was like an hour and a half. And it was solid. Yeah.
Both those are free?
$10 for
$10 for both of them?
Okay. If you buy like the deluxe edition upgrade or whatever.
That's not too bad. I kind of really want to check those out now that you've... Jake, you should just play all video games before me and tell me whether or not I should play them. If you can start doing... I'll give you access. You can join my Steam family, I guess. And just tell me what to do. Can you beat Metaphor? Let me know if I need to dive back in.
Sure.
I'm bringing my Steam Deck to my parents for Christmas, and I want to sit by the fire and play with my little anime people and make them do all the things I want them to.
But now I need to finally go back and do the Control DLC so that I can be all up to date for Control 2.
What was the Control DLC?
The Foundation.
He hasn't played it yet.
No,
it was, but I know it was. I think it was all set. It was all set in like whatever that super basement level is.
I don't think I played any of that either. I should go back and play Control again because I wasn't super high on it. I mean, I was super high on it, but not. I wasn't. Yeah. Well, not yet.
It's if I may, it's like Indiana Jones. It's doing something different, but it's got a lot of flaws too. And at some point, for me, actually, I burned out because of the flaws.
It's also similar to Indiana Jones because with Control, I wanted Alan Wake again, and not with Indiana Jones, but I kind of want Wolfenstein. Like everyone wants Wolfenstein 3, and everyone back then wanted Alan Wake 2. So it was kind of like, why are you putting this game out? I want more of the continuation. So I do like Control. I didn't like that level everyone likes in that level in that game. So I think I think because I think the song was terrible, or whatever song was playing I didn't enjoy, and everyone's like, this song's so good, and I'm like, it's just not my type of music. It's like half the audio file stuff everyone posted in the Discord. I was just like, yeah, I can't. I mean, that one Donald Trump song was great, but other than that, it's hard
I haven't thought about that in a long time.
It's so
put that back on rotation.
You can throw that one up on Spotify. Listen to it, real good. That's it. That's everyone talking about video games. Oh my god, I can't believe you made it through it. Well, actually, you talked about you did talk about Henri's big hole. I'm glad you were able to do that. Good for you. It means it's time for the news. Oh, does that mean I get to play the new news theme?
Yeah, the new nudes theme.
New nudes theme. Time for the news, gaming news. We're gonna talk about video games. There we go, man. I don't know who that guy was, but get him some tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
Scrambled eggs.
Both a nut and or. Ian, you went through the news this week. You fired people. You cut games. You blew up the Empire State Building just to get in the news for us. Please.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Do you guys want to talk about the Game Awards?
I do, because
this is the first year in like 5 years I haven't watched it, so I have nothing to contribute.
Okay, let's do this. We can talk about Game Awards. It's running long, so we have no obligation to talk about everything in it. Let's just mention the things that we actually want to talk about. Will, you've got notes. How about you go first?
Will's notes. Here we go. We're going through the whole show. Will's notes are the only things that are important. We don't have to talk about anything else. Harrison Ford was there. It was great. He was high as fuck, but he was awesome. We love Harrison Ford.
It's Harrison Ford.
Witcher 4, they announced it's got Ciri as the main character. The CGI trailer was pretty cool. Other than that, I don't care about. I mean, Cyberpunk was awful on launch. How am I to care about any game you ever put out against CD Projekt Red? Elden Ring co-op game, that looked like fun. It looked like a circle that was shrinking.
This one I'm worried about. Have you guys heard any of the actual details about this? Because
zero
some details. Nothing that gave me great pause.
Okay, let me outline my understanding of it, which is basically each time you start the game, you get to pick from one of 8 pre-made characters.
Mm-hmm.
You then go through a 3-day day and night cycle. I believe each day lasts 10 minutes, they said. And then I'm assuming the night is a little bit less than that. So in my head, I'm thinking that means 45 minutes per 3-day night cycle.
Just like on the flat Earth.
It takes place in... It's Limgrave, right? Limgrave is the opening area.
No, it was something else. They said it was Lim something.
Yeah, but it's the Limgrave map.
Oh.
It's a Limgrave map, but according to people who got hands-on with it for a couple hours, they said it's altered. So the buildings have changed and the enemy placements have changed and it's more dense. But it's pretty much just that opening area map from Elden Ring.
Okay.
As you kill people, they drop upgrades. I don't know if that's just weapons or if that's also stat upgrades. I'm assuming it's both. You can apply those to your character. There's a boss fight each night, and then on the third night there's a big boss fight. The whole time there's also a battle royale circle that is closing for some reason, forcing you to specific areas. And then at the end of it, you get certain bonuses or stat upgrades that you can then permanently apply to the 8 pre-made characters so that on your next run. And it's also single player or 3-player co-op. I don't know. It's interesting, but at the same time, like the battle royale circle, the fact that it's pretty much the same map and they've just randomized it, to me, it sounds like Hitman Freelancer mode, where yeah, it could be something really cool, but why are you charging? I think it's $40 or $50 for this.
Yeah,
that's the thing where I'm like, this sounds like a really cool mode. I don't know why you're making it a separate game.
I think it's neat that they're listening, at least in like, giving co-op and that sort of stuff more of a chance. But it does feel like there's a ton of qualifiers and stuff added to that to make it something else. So, yeah, it still looks like fun. I'm glad they're experimenting, but we'll see kind of what happens.
I saw someone saying there in the trailer there was like a boss from Dark Souls 3 in there. And then I saw people being like, "Why not put a boss from Armored Core in there?"
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Multiverse, add a multiverse.
Yeah, put Balteus in Elden Ring.
Please. Next up here on the Will Notes, we've got the Shadow of the Colossus Last Guardian new game. Showed a brief gameplay for. I'm just happy that little thing on big thing climbing is coming, but making a huge comeback.
Did you play Jusant?
No, I did not play Jusant. Is that little thing on big thing climbing?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm
at least in part
already hard.
I did not see the trailer. So the new Eco Creator game is small thing on big thing climbing.
Yeah. The trailer was supposedly just gameplay, and it was hitching a little bit. So you're like, I think this is gameplay, like early gameplay. But he climbs this giant robot as this AI, not the bad AI, but robot voice counts down in a shockwave that's about to hit, and he like launches off. I'm saying it's a robot boy or girl or whatever. I'm using the narrative and like takes off. It's a really like good trailer. Like the robot voice that plays is kind of like that Sadukar, but a female version of it. And it's neat. It's very cool. So check that out. Other big thing here, Outer Worlds Part 2 had a little trailer with gameplay. That looks very fun. Trailer was funny. They said from the company that brought you Knights of the Old Republic Part 2, Neverwinter Nights Part 2, and then they said Fallout 3 Part 2, New Vegas. And like made a joke.
That's pretty fun.
And here comes another Part 2.
2025, I believe they put a date on that.
Yes, because Avowed comes out this or next year as well.
It comes out like February, right?
Yeah. So Karen and I are excited for that. We're big OW heads here. We ow a lot. Outer Worlds.
No. OW is Outer Wilds.
Sorry.
OW.
I will say that I fell for the classic mix-em-up that when I first read the headline where I was like, Outer Wilds 2? And then immediately was like, oh, it's the other one.
Still good though.
Still exciting, but not as exciting.
Joseph Farah's Split Fiction game looks fun. Looks like it takes two, but not It Takes Two. It is two people who are part of this writing program, and you go into like these VR worlds, and you're creating like one person's creating a fantasy world, the other person's creating a sci-fi world. They accidentally get pushed into the same machine, and they have to fight through their creations to get out. And every world is one sci-fi, then the next is fantasy, and then sci-fi, and plays around with that.
Guys, I just came with a banger game idea. All right, this one's actually really good. Because my number one problem with those games is that it's co-op, and I don't do co-op well. Because I'm bossy, right? It's co-op only, right? Those games have always been co-op only.
You're I hate you.
I know myself. I know my flaws. But I was thinking, what if it was a co-op game, but the other player, instead of being a person, was just like a really basic, rudimentary, like 6-year-old holding a controller, AI trained model. And then as you're playing the game, it is actively training off of what you're doing. So it's a co-op game, but part of the game is also trying to teach this AI model. Like it's learning off of what you're doing, and you're trying to teach it the right behavior. So if you're bad and you keep falling, it'll kind of repeat your behavior.
That was the whole idea behind Alien Isolation, right? Is that the alien AI learns from you to hunt you down.
That felt like a buzzword presentation where I feel like the tech is actually here now that you could have it actually use your live gameplay as training data, and it learns, and you're building your own co-op model as you play the game.
And there's a little ticker of how much of the rainforest you've used up training your AI.
I mean, honestly, this is a banger game idea.
Just play Brothers. You don't need two people to play that one.
Just imagine if like you keep making a mistake where you keep accidentally backing off of ledges, and then you notice the other person start doing it, and you're like, oh shit, I got to stop backing off of ledges because I've taught it the wrong behavior.
Anyways, Split Fiction. I mean, that's a great idea, Ian. Just get a friend.
I'll call Joseph later.
The other they continue to do the cool thing where you only need to own one copy of the game to play with a friend. So
that's cool.
That's cool. Fun. Next was
they did say each copy cost $140.
100,000. The next, there was a trailer, and I brought this up on a previous stream, but or last week, no, a previous stream. In the thing, they kept calling enemies NPCs, and it really bothered me. So I wrote down, who calls enemies NPCs? Nobody does that. NPCs are like specifically like people you talk to and interact with, not. And not to say they were pushing a line there. They were literally fighting. Like if they had said ads, I would have been okay. Yeah. But they were like, ugh, it's gross. They did the Game Changer Award, which is where Jeff Keighley acknowledged all the layoff stuff, which was great. I think it's a new award this year to someone changing the industry, and it was the guy.
I don't know that we should be celebrating this guy, because I saw a very good Twitter thread basically saying, hey, this guy is part of the middle management / executive class in the games industry, so he's part of the problem. And also all he did was create a spreadsheet basically saying, like, hey, here's some basic resources. So it's one of those things where it's like, this is not really the way that we should be celebrating. It felt like lip service to the impact layoffs have had without actually addressing the real impact.
Because Jeff can't really take any sort of hard stance, because then the big studios aren't going to put their ads in his show.
Yeah, once again, Jeff Keighley's a bitch and Game Awards suck.
Sure. Anyways, it was good and it was cool. So never mind. Fuck that guy. I hope he dies and gets in a car accident and his house burns down.
I hope he gets laid off. Let's just make it easy. He gets laid off.
I want him shot in the head with bullets that say QA rules. And
no. You already went way too hard and way too realistic. Shot in the head. You can't bring it back to a joke, buddy. We all heard it.
I just want his brains all over the floor. That's all we want. This is a literal call to action in GTA 6.
Like and subscribe and shoot that man in the head.
Like, subscribe, shoot that man
in our
in the
inevitable deposition. When we're watching the split back a year from your honor.
Folks, we do not condone any of this. This is all a joke. This is a joke.
Is what we would say if we were kidding.
I don't know.
The good prank, Ian. Great prank, bud. Speaking of pranks, they announced The Long Dark 2, which made me say they finished The Long Dark 1 because I had no idea that they finished that game. So congrats to them. This game seemed more of like, I don't know if it was like not open world or like it might be online or something. I took notes. I didn't remember anything. So, so bear with me.
Are those notes or is that your grocery list?
Fuck, it does say eggs. Next I wrote Jeff crying and then a word I can't read. He cried at one point, which was weird.
Why?
I don't remember. I think it's
was it when the Muppets made fun of him in his quote unquote friendship?
The Muppet Kojima stuff was very funny. I think it says Arcane, but I don't think it says Arcane. It says something. I'll remember later. Project Century. That looks cool. The new Yakuza
We didn't watch this.
You didn't watch this? Okay, so they announced the new Yakuza game called Project Century.
I understand, but we can move on to the next thing.
You're not excited for that?
No, they're doing too much Yakuza stuff right now, so they got to do something really special to grab my interest again.
Oh, well, I mean, it's not Yakuza. It's just a new open world game from them that I'm excited for.
Good.
Hideo Goat I wrote. He had a cool coat. Turok apparently is coming back. Helldivers 2. We played the Helldivers 2 stuff. Onimushi Warlords. They're bringing it back. Capcom, they watched me. They heard me talking about playing the original game this year on local chat, and they said, what's a franchise we can bring back? Just for Will.
How long was the show plus the pre-show? It was like, what, 4 hours?
Probably 3.5 hours.
Jesus.
Hey, listen, you can go fuck yourself.
That's as long as the Oscars, and the Oscars don't show any trailers.
Dispatch game about dispatching superheroes from like the dispatch person was pretty cool. It had Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey on stage for that with way too much chemistry. Okami 2, Crimson Desert, Intergalactic, and then there was a Keytar, and the Keytar said the Astrobot name. It was really cool, and that was fun. So those are my notes. I hope you enjoyed them. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Go fuck yourselves.
Congratulations to Astrobot for winning Game of the Year.
No, not congratulations. They did not deserve it. It's a terrible video game. Balatro should have gotten it.
But just think, if Astrobot didn't win, then we wouldn't have gotten that really cringy note from the Wukong developers saying we should have won. And it's really upsetting that
it was really awkward.
Yeah.
That guy.
The only other news we should probably touch on is, guys, are you excited for the Nintendo Switch 2?
No.
Is it common to get these kind of looks at the hardware before Nintendo has formally announced it?
Definitely not.
That was my thought.
This is crazy. I think the problem is that Nintendo, this has been rumored for a bit, but it's pretty clear at this point. They want to build up a huge amount of inventory before they reveal this, let alone sell it. And part of that process is usually they let case manufacturers and accessory manufacturers have like a 3D model of the console that they can use to design this stuff. And basically the problem is all these case manufacturers, there's multiples of them, have been leaking to multiple different sources. So everything from hey, here's a description of what it looks like. Here's 3D renders of what it looks like. There was a YouTuber who got out in the open, like it's no big deal, got shipped a non-functioning, complete 3D physical mock-up on the Nintendo Switch 2 that the case manufacturer made based off of the design that they got from Nintendo to help them design the cases. And then there's also a Reddit leaker who says they got hands-on with actual hardware, but were not allowed to turn it on, so they saw the dock and all sorts of details. And key things here is it appears to be an 8-inch screen. Rumor is LCD IPS screen. It will have a USB-C port on the bottom and the top so that you can charge it now while it's like on a kickstand or whatever. It's less annoying. It does have a little bit chunkier Joy-Cons, a little bit easier to use. It does have the magnetics. Apparently the sideways trigger on the back is the release button for the Joy-Cons, the magnetic Joy-Cons. And there is a C button on the bottom right near the home button. And it's going to use the same cartridges. So overall, it just looks like a slightly bigger, slightly better to hold Switch. And it's also called the Switch 2 from all the case manufacturing promotional material. It's all based around Switch 2 cases with the Switch logo and a 2 next to it, etc.
I still think
so,
it's
Jake,
I
think
Switch
you're right.
U.
Switch U, buddy. I think you're right. This is wild to get this much leaked about a new console before it's even been officially revealed.
When do you think it's going to be revealed? Play some bets next year, maybe?
Well, I have to bring it up, right? Because multiple people on this podcast have said
January 6th.
Multiple people on this podcast have said, based on Nintendo Directs, that this thing is 100% coming out in early 2024.
Who would
they
say
were
that?
dead wrong. The current rumor and remember they said that they will talk about it before the end of the financial year. So we will at least hear about it by the end of March. So the current rumor
that different in Japan than it is here, or
well, a company can choose their own fiscal year. Yeah, so their fiscal year is April 1st through March 30th.
Easter.
Anyways, so the current rumor is reveal in January, launch in April. That feels right to me.
Yeah, because based on the past directs, that feels pretty right. I think that'll line up pretty well. I mean, it's true. Based on
it kind of makes sense. Like I was thinking about this today. Like the whole holiday season, it still matters a little bit with shopping, but like the Game Awards and so many GOTY conversations at various outlets have fucked the industry so bad that you don't want to release your game in November or January, because that basically takes it out of contention for Game of the Year. And so the whole idea of you want to launch a console at the end of the year, I don't think is really that valid anymore. So I think the next best thing is you launch it at the start of a fiscal year. And that way you get a whole fiscal year's worth of returns. That makes sense to me.
They want that pipeline squeaky clean by holidays. So there's not, like, they don't want to sell out of units during the holidays. They want everyone who can buy one to give them money. So
yeah, that's a great point, because the last big console launches, PS5 and Xbox Series X, basically unavailable for the holidays.
Yeah.
And months afterwards.
Everyone at Nintendo who probably was pitching for a holiday release, everyone else is like, hey, we released the Switch 1 in March, April, like, yeah, and it did. This is how well it did. Let's just stick with that plan. Because again, and also Sony and Xbox stuff. So,
and like you said, it lets you build up that not just build up inventory for Christmas sales, but it lets you build up an install base, so that when you put out a banger like Super Mario Odyssey in the holiday season of the launch year, you have a lot of people who can buy it because they already have the console.
Because they're starved for games. What a dark year that was.
A little bit, yeah.
Great.
I don't know. There were indie games like day one.
Yeah, that's true.
It was only starved maybe the first month.
Yeah, that's true. There was Zelda day one, but after Zelda, it was pretty light.
It was we looked it up, right? It was like 6 launch titles. Like it was nothing. Yeah, and remember that Snake game? The Snake game came out like 3 or 4 months after launch.
Snaky.
It was good, but everybody bought it and was playing it because it was like one of the very few games on the Switch at that point.
Yeah, I own a bunch of games I've only played once on my Switch because you were like buying stuff. I remember Celeste was one of the early ones that was on there. So I played a lot of that. Yeah. Snipper Clips, 1, 2.
Snipper Clips was a launch title.
1, 2 shoot.
Yeah.
Something. 3, 2, 1 shoot.
1, 2 switch.
1, 2 switch. Content Callout.
Ian. We didn't have a lot of news time, but I could not avoid this headline from PC Gamer, which says Gooner 911 averted as Zenless Zone Zero's butt obfuscation technology is rolled back in the face of horny outrage by Andy Chalk, and then the subheadline is "Let me explain." Basically, Zenless Zone Zero was going to roll out some technology that obscured some of the butt shots that gamers were getting, and they had a very aggressive pushback on that. So the developer has decided not to roll out the butt obfuscation. The intended patch notes were, quote, adjust the agent's display for certain angles. When viewed from specific angles, the agent will appear faded, which I guess is your whatever character you're playing as. So if you try to do an upskirt shot, it would fade the character out. And people hated that. So yeah, thank God for Gooner 911.
Gooner 911 is really good.
Very good.
And then Wishlist Spotlight, who was that? Who did that? Bad Dog. Modulus? Is that either of you two?
Oh shit, yeah, that was weeks and weeks ago. This is Modulus on Steam, Modulus, is a factory automation game where you cut, color, stamp, and assemble 3D building blocks.
Classic Ian.
It looks really cool. It has like a zone-like image to it. it's got a little bit of a cell shading, and it's got a bit of a like an isometric view where you're kind of like tilt shift lens building these little buildings on top of each other, block based, and it just happens to be a factory that you're building, an automated factory with things going through it that you have to combine and produce. So yeah, shout outs to Modulus. Looks pretty cool. Go wishlist it now.
Why do I have 10 new items? Oh, it said I had 10 new items in my inventory. Fucking liar. I had 11 notifications. God, wait, no, I do have 10 new items. When you ever play a game and then all of a sudden they're like, we released the Steam cards, and you've played a lot of hours, so like, here's all the Steam cards. You're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Anyways,
you guys ever make money? You guys ever make money off the Steam cards?
This was the wrap it up pose.
Yeah, I sell them and then I get like $1 or $2, and then I'll buy something with it.
Oh, you still sell them nowadays?
Yeah, I always put them up. What else am I gonna do?
Oh damn! Because I just didn't realize that was still viable, because I used to do it like the first 2-3 months they came out, and I made like $40-$50 off those cards.
Yeah, I never make that much, but I like most of them. I put up I put them 1 cent under the going price, and they usually sell pretty quick. It looks like I got a bunch from Balatro and all sorts of shite. That's gonna be it for the show. Let me hit the out of here button, and we can get the hell out of here, folks. Subpixelfilms.com is where you can go and check out all of our beautiful content. That is where you can see me, Ian, Kyle, and Jake in all the various things we've done in life. Buy your loved one some merch for Christmas. I guarantee Redbubble will get it there before Christmas. That's money back guarantee from me to Redbubble to you. Someone just bought 3 Malevolon Creek hats for their friends for the holidays, so you could do that too, and give us like 1/10 of the money that generates. We will be back this weekend, Friday night. When are you streaming?
Tomorrow 5 p.m. Eastern time, Children of the Sun, which is described as a puzzler sniper game.
Hell yeah, he'll be there for that. I'm away. And then we got some special treats for after Christmas. I love you. Good night.